hi everyone, and welcome to FlexWorld. If you're joining now, I'm Mikhail, and I'm head of product here at Office R&D, and I'm very excited to moderate this panel, which is about our future that is smart for AI and the next generation of coworking. So AI and smart technologies are reshaping co-working spaces and from how they are managed to how member experience them every day. And today we'll hear the both sides of the story. I'm joined by two CEOs that are building cutting-edge AI products specifically for co-working spaces. And you can see my own CEO leading from operator's perspective, using and scaling AI in real-world co-working environments. So I'd like to ask each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves. Please share your name, your company, and your experience. And maybe now we're going to start with Francesco.
MK, by the way, sorry to interrupt you. Do you want to share your screen or do you want me to share?
Oh, I can share, yeah. Definitely.
Good, that'd be helpful.
Now we can see.
Yes.
Perfect. To you, Francesco. Can you hear us? Maybe you can unmute.
I think Francesco is on mute, yeah. Maybe we can start with Elliot.
Hey, Elliot.
Hi, thanks for having me. Nice to be here with you all. So I'm Elliot Gold. I'm a founder and an operator. And I guess most relevantly in this context, I'm chairman of a business called Orchestry. And we're building a suite of AI agents to make operating flex businesses really easy and efficient and profitable.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Let's see, Francesco.
Hi there.
Hello.
Yeah, we got you.
Here, don't worry. Good to see you all.
Yeah, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Sorry, did I just miss introductions? I was on yeah.
Sorry with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm Francesco. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unity AI. We're a AI sales agent platform that has been purpose-built for co-working and flexible workspace operators. We're principally focused on helping operators increase their conversion rate through a multi-channel approach across email, text message, and soon voice to convert leads into scheduled tours and paying customers. And yeah, we're New York based. But operating in about 10 countries now, and yeah, excited to share more as we go through this conversation.
Thank you. And again, welcome. All right, so Miro, do you want to reintroduce yourself or everybody knows you already?
Yeah, I'm Europe CEO co-founder of Office R&D, and yeah, I'm no AI expert, but I'm excited about it. So I can talk about it for days. So yeah, excited.
Great. All right, AI, yeah, is hot topic around our industry. Everybody talks about it, but I'd like us to start with more of a broad question here to set, the scene. So where AI stands today in co-working, like where do you see it most practical and valuable for users in our industry? And here the focus is to help everyone to see and to open their eyes. Maybe why don't we start now with Francesco? And yeah, I'll be happy to hear every one of you on the topic.
Great. So I think broadly speaking, where we see the greatest need for AI is where you have a high volume, repetitive set of conversations with customers that if you could use an AI agent to more effectively manage, it will either sort of improve your top line revenue or reduce your bottom line costs, right? And I think one of the general characteristics of a lot of co-working and flexible workspace operators are that these are sort of margin sensitive businesses, and most people tend to wear multiple hats. And one of the key sort of impediments blocking sustainable growth is automation, right? And how to automate a lot of the repetitive workflows. And so I think where we see AI agents playing a really substantive role is handling conversations with customers across the entire life cycle. So where we're currently focused is the beginning of that life cycle. It's you're getting leads from marketplaces, you're getting leads direct, you're getting leads from brokers. You kind of want to route those leads to an AI agent to help process 24/7 a funnel that helps you increase your conversion rate. But I think where AI agents in general can support co-working operators doesn't really stop there. I mean, it moves to onboarding, to maintenance tickets, customer support, renewals, collections. These are all sort of repetitive back and forth workflows that you have with customers on a day-to-day basis. And this is where I think AI can play a material role, is to offset some of that manual work.
Right. Yeah, I also do see like those areas growing as a pain to people. So yeah, Elliot, can you share?
I think Francesco's introduction is a good one, and obviously in terms of use cases, we share the same views. I think just zooming out a little bit, if that's helpful. I think generally, as a sector, we're late to the tech party usually.
Very late.
But that's what makes this moment quite exciting. There's a huge amount of low-hanging fruit available for operators, and most operators are still doing really basic tasks manually, whether that's chasing leads or copying data from one system to another system, or onboard. Francesco spoke about onboarding. Just generally, the inefficiencies that we see are enormous. And so they're eating, obviously, into profitability, and equally, if not more importantly, to the experience that we're offering to members. So it's not that the tech isn't ready. In fact, there was a McKinsey report a couple of years ago that said, just on today's technology, so forget any more advancements in technology, something like 60% of all the work in developed economies can be automated. Obviously, it will take a bit of time to get there, potentially not that long. So it's not that the tech isn't ready, it's that the mindset isn't there. And there's a lot of nervousness, obviously, generally, but I think also within our sector, from a lot of operators. But the operators who are leading in now are starting to separate themselves from the pack at a time where cost efficiencies are pretty key. Operators who are engaging with these products and technologies are starting to see the benefits. They're not waiting for AI to become perfect and 100% adapted to exactly what they're doing. They're trying different tools. They're seeing what works for them and what works for their workflows. So, I mean, the general feeling I have is one of excitement. We're at quite an exciting time for the sector.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, the sector is usually late to the party, but I think with AI, in a few years, this will not be the case. It's going to help us, be on time for the party. You're on mute?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Elliot said it well, and Francesco, but real estate is the slowest industry in the world in general, like in terms of adoption of technology and pretty much everything. I remember one, say, prominent landlord saying that the biggest, still to date, the biggest innovation in real estate is the elevator, which was invented like centuries ago. So typically, slow adoption of new technology, very kind of conservative and whatnot. Staying at co-working is different, and for the most part is not real estate business, although obviously it is, but it isn't. So it's from if we put it in the real estate, then it's adopting technology fast compared to the broader real estate world. But if we compare it to technology itself and other industries, it's super slow. So where it stands, it's kind of in terms of AI, other than these two gentlemen, Elliot and Francesco, doing innovation on that front, it's kind of nowhere, in my opinion, which is, yeah, very late to the party in general compared to pretty much every other industry where you'll see like literally hundreds of companies doing crazy things with AI. So where it's today, not far. But that's also an opportunity. So hopefully, we'll see things speed up and see a lot more of it in the future.
Francesco, you mentioned that you don't think the technology isn't ready yet, but is it? Do you think that there are areas that technology isn't ready yet, or where the operators are still reluctant to invest?
So is the question around where AI can play a role now and where it's not yet quite ready? Is that what you're
Yeah.
driving at? Yeah. Um, I mean, I think broadly speaking, like it is sort of ready. I think the question is, you know, as Miro and Elliot put it, the way I kind of think about AI is like there's these large language models, which are these absolutely enormously powerful data models, right? Language models. And their capabilities far surpass our ability to apply them to our use cases, right? And so you have basically these application companies. And so, Elliot and I are building application companies built on top of language models to fine-tune use cases to specific workflows, and domains like co-working. And so I actually think that what's late to the party, so to speak, is those applications, right? But the core sort of like horsepower and machinery exists, right? And so now it's sort of incumbent upon our companies and others to basically make it actually usable by the industry and by the operators. Because to make AI usable, it needs to integrate with your CRMs, your Office R&Ds, right? Your Calendlies, your QuickBooks, like your core tech stack. That is the all of the intricacy, not all, a lot of the intricacy in making these systems really usable by operators. And this is not even unique to co-working. I mean, this is just sort of a comment generally on kind of applications that are tailored to specific verticals, is how to basically create a user interface and kind of a backend that enables an operator to basically, onboard your solution and for it to actually work for that particular use case, and in an amount of time that is agreeable, right? And so I think the use cases that we're focused on today are just, in our opinion, somewhere like the low-hanging fruit is when you sort of apply kind of an ROI calculator to an investment, right? More leads, converting more leads leads to more revenue. That's a very clear kind of math problem. Once you start going down kind of like the support funnel, collections, underwriting, you kind of get to start further away from revenue. And what we've just found is that people are less excited about those use cases. But the technology to enable and unlock those use cases exists. It's just the applications that basically, haven't been built to unlock them just yet.
Right. Elliot?
Yeah, I think I've got anything to add on top of that.
Yeah, and like from when we're talking about AI, there are a lot of myths that go around. I'm pretty sure you guys had a lot of customer calls talking about what you provide and maybe the expectations from the other side being too big or completely different from what it actually is. Uh, Are there any big myths or misunderstandings that you often hear about AI in coworking?
Is
Maybe
that
Elliot, you want to go? Yeah.
I'll start with Elliot.
I mean, the obvious one and the one that I hear the whole time, and I think is a common misconception, is, we pride ourselves on personal service, and therefore AI is not for us. And
Yeah, that's a good one.
and to me, and it's very relevant within our sector, given that that's where a lot of operators play and see themselves, akin to hospitality operators. But to me, that's a cop out, and it's the wrong way to be looking at this. First of all, we're past that point now. We'll all be engaging. Our agents will be having these conferences in a couple of years' time, and importantly, AI is not there to replace the personal service, and we really need to everyone needs to get clear on this. It's there to unlock the personal service, and therefore this isn't a mutually exclusive thing. AI or people. Obviously, some elements of AI will replace certain roles and create new roles, but this isn't about destroying your community teams and not having a human level of service. People absolutely need to stay at the center of co-working, in my view, and humans will therefore continue to be valuable in lots of areas of co-working, and I think in operational real estate in general, but just not in the same way as today, and hopefully in a better way, focused on driving better relationships. Think about your community manager, going back to the community manager role. If a community manager can walk into a conversation, a retention conversation, already having a good understanding of members' feedback last month, or how they've used the space, where they've had issues, what parts of the space they've been using. That's a personal level of service. Or in the context of what we're doing with our first sales agent at Orchestry, if your sales team could spend time on leads that have been properly qualified, rather than spending ages on 1,000 leads, most of which are completely unqualified, and therefore not getting to spend time on valuable work, they can therefore divert their attention to more consultative selling rather than copy pasting. Again, that's a personal level of service. So I think just generally we need to deal with this misconception that it's one or the other. Ultimately, your people can be more effective as a result, and more personal as a result of the AI that we're talking about.
Yeah, that reminds me, in the past, I had so many conversations with operators who do not want to use member portal to allow members to book directly meeting rooms, because they want to see members actually going to reception to speak with the receptionist or the community manager and book from there, so that there is this feeling of community. And that always, was driving me crazy, because I mean, that it's not one or the other. I mean, you can have both and you can still have community, but there are people that do not want to go talk to the receptionist to book a room, because you just want to book the room. I mean, it's efficiency. And so it's similar case here, I guess. It's going to take a while to get people to understand that this is not replacing, but it's empowering, which is an important.
Jessica, do you want to add top?
I think I, definitely agree with the points made. My what I'd add is that, like, people, one thing that we run into a lot is people sort of still think AI is like this magic thing that just like is going to work perfectly day one for like exactly like what all of their scenarios, and fully understand everything about their business and their inventory and their data and their style, their tone, exactly. And it's like it's interesting just how quickly all of our consumer expectations have evolved from like 2 years ago. This was like inconceivable that there would be like an agent that could like respond to an email in natural English, and now people are like complaining that it said something slightly inaccurate. And it's just like it's kind of like funny how quickly the world just sort of like has moved on to accept and I just say like one of the misconceptions here is just like these agents, these models, they need to get tamed, right? They need to get engineered and prompted, and you have to invest in them, not just us, the companies building these agents, but the co-working operators who are implementing them. You have to just like you'd have a new employee who you'd sort of train and you kind of give feedback to in the first week, the second week, the third second. You have to do the same thing with agents, in terms of just expanding their knowledge base, providing feedback on how they handle certain scenarios, and they don't just work day one. And so I think one of the things that I
Yeah,
would
can
just
you
stress
can you
to everyone.
imagine like a new sales rep and you put them in front of prospects day one? It's gonna be awesome.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, surprised if they say one thing wrong. So yeah, I think people, you need to really invest in general. Like if you're gonna invest in an AI agent, you have to find someone within the organization that you can assign to that project.
Hmm. I experienced this frustration myself, starting utilizing AI, expecting it when I say something, just one sentence to understand and to do and say things. I do the same way without even training it. So, yeah, great reference. And when talking about use cases, I think it's time, after setting the scene and more broadly about AI in co-working, to go forward and talk about more of the on the use cases, because AI is helping a lot, and you guys mentioned it on efficiency and automation. So how we're getting there, like what's the one use case your customers are seeing great results from? And I know what you both gonna answer. That's why I'd like to start with Miro on the more on the broader spectrum here. But the first thing I was thinking people are gonna start investing is in support, actually, because we as a company also saw this opportunity, to answer the simplest questions or things that you can teach this agent to answer, instead of, trying somebody to respond to everyone. So, Mira, one open.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the co-working world, it's certainly sales. It's it's no coincidence that's the first use case. I think it just has more volume in general there, especially for the bigger operators, and so much more upside. Obviously, there is support, but on the support front, I think it's much more problem, less opportunity. There is also too much interaction with the real world, the physical world. So I don't think, I mean, yes, we do use obviously AI. Some customers here have already been in contact with our agent there, hopefully successfully. And it's been working well for us, but we have a lot of huge volume on that front, and certainly it's been helpful. But I think on the co-working side, sales is the number one thing that's visibly working. Knowing what I know also from Orchestry and Unity. So yeah, that's the one I see.
Do you see it anywhere around occupancy forecasting, for example?
Uh, yeah, I mean there are plenty of use cases where we can see benefits, but I think it's how big of a benefit it's going to be. Because, yeah, I mean, certainly AI can give me an occupancy forecast, or in general, like all sorts of business forecasts. Whether I believe that or not, it's another question. But it's it's not a massive benefit. It's not a massive efficiency at this point. But if you can do a better customer service on the sales front with less people, now that's big. That's big.
And to double down on the occupancy forecasting and forecasting itself, you know, is forecasting actually AI work or it's statistical work? Because a lot of people are putting AI in front of everything and they think the AI actually does it, but maybe the AI is over there where the agent can do the data collection, the data cleansing, everything to put it in one place, calculate it for you and give you a suggestion. But again, it's like this like thinking AI can solve everything and can be applied to everything. Sometimes it's just the overhead to do it, and sometimes it's not. And to dive into where the use cases around AI drive real impact, I'd like to continue with the rest of you guys. Who wants to start?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I would surprise you to hear that I would say sales as well.
Okay.
But I genuinely believe that for all the reasons we've discussed. And yeah, generally, if you're still chasing 1,000 leads a month manually, then you're already behind the curve. And that whole process, that whole sales follow-up process, whether you're processing direct leads or broker leads, and obviously we have some different workflows depending on where these leads come from. This is where we're seeing a big impact. And our sales agent has automated that process from the point of inquiry through to conversion, which usually in the case of an office is a tour confirmation or a tour booking. So the whole qualification process, collecting the right information, duplicate checking, effectively replicating what these teams were doing manually and repeatedly a few years ago or more recently. And then most importantly, nurturing these leads through to the point of being in a position to book a tour. So it's not just more efficient, it's also commercially better because there's less time spent doing it. The roles that we're doing it are more enjoyable, hopefully. And more, most importantly, more tours and better conversion rates. So the future of these workflows isn't more people as you scale your business. It's better systems in place with smaller, sharper teams using this technology and using these agents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, trying to think of something unique here to say. I think we all agree sales is probably the unique starting point for all of us. And I think at the end of the day, like, what are models really good at? These language models, they're good at synthesis, they're good at summarization, they're good at content generation. And really, what does that mean? It means they're good at basically, like, you give them a text input, they give a text output. And so if you can map the right workflows behind the scenes to be able to do that in the context of answering customer questions, queries, whether it's direct brokers, inbound, direct inbound. I think that's the key area that we see as well. I think outbound is, we don't personally do anything on the outbound side, like lead generation. Most of, I think, the work that we're doing is inbound, qualification of leads, engagement of leads, conversion of leads. One area that I'd be interested to hear, Miro or Elliot, your thought is, like, is there a use case for kind of, on the lead generation side? That's something we hear from a lot of our customers that they might be interested in, but I also haven't seen a lot of proof points that doing any kind of automated outbound at scale, either on text or email or even voice, has really been that effective. It tends to be that co-working operators are driving more of kind of like an inbound marketing funnel and then using an AI agent to manage inbound. But I guess it's not a use case, Mihail, that we're seeing right now, or at least we are. But I'd be interested to hear from others and see how that plays out over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in kind of two minds on the outbound. But firstly, I can see how valuable it is, and it should be for operators, because in a world where direct leads are more and more important and not paying these hefty broker commissions, the ability to generate your own lead flow and business development becomes more and more important. So I can see the value in doing it really well. But then on the other side of it, and with my operator hat on, these outbound efforts of lead generation systems generally don't produce very good results. So question mark for me is, are you trying to automate something that isn't very good to start with? and just do it quicker? I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I also don't see yet the outbound motion, but certainly there are certain use cases in other industries where it's kind of working. Is the actual research. So if you have an ICP, ideal customer profile, which you can well define, using AI should be, good to find all the right customers in a certain region or prospects. So prospecting, some people may call this the BDR work, not the SDR, not approaching and sending, blasting AI to send templated messages to everyone. I mean, that's awful in general. but the actual prospecting and doing the BDR work, so the actual research of potential customers, that's interesting. Like extracting as much information as possible for a prospect, that's powerful. So imagine the following use case. I mean, getting all businesses with 5 to 30 people registered in your zip code or whatever, some form of an area, and research these companies and figure out a way to research as much data about them as possible and approach them for better workspace solutions instead of whatever they're currently using. So there are options, but so far, I mean, I'm just speculating. So I haven't seen this. This should be working.
Yeah, and what you shared, sending templated messages, and I'm being creative here. Maybe you're researching the company, their LinkedIn post or something like that,
Yeah.
and adjusting the message. This sometimes sounds like stalking, but yeah, maybe in the future we can
No,
use
it's happening. That's definitely
it.
happening. That's not
Definitely.
yeah.
And because we can see that the inbound is the focus where we are at in the co-working industry and what you guys are doing. Do you see any difference between short-term to long-term questions asked or sales where you are helping your customers with that they need help like with your AI agents?
I mean, I guess speaking for our customers, I think that there's always kind of a phasing in of the agent. They're never, typically they don't want to go full portfolio, all locations, all products day one. And so I think like if you're an operator on this call and you're considering, is AI for me? Like what's the risk of kind of introducing an agent into kind of my sales process? I think the way I would sort of encourage you to think about it is you don't need, it's not kind of like an all or nothing thing. You can just use an AI agent to manage your virtual office inbound leads, right? Or your day passes where people have extra, additional questions about, your day passes. Or you just pick one or two locations and kind of constrain, an experiment associated with those buildings. And so, to answer your question, I think typically what we see is that where the most value is unlocked, where there are products either with the highest volume of inbound inquiries or the most lack of straightforwardness around what the offering is. So, virtual mailbox, a lot of people who haven't bought one before, like don't really know how they work. And, I mean, I still don't know fully how they work. Like if I were to buy one, I would have a lot of questions. I would probably like want to talk to someone and get quick answers, right? So these types of products where there's quite a bit of like back and forth, I think is a clear use case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elliot, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think on one side, what you want to do with this technology is focus your salespeople on in general, you want to focus your salespeople on the highest value leads, right? So some of the value of this technology is and these products are to deal with the lower value leads, which in this sector generally is, you know, the virtual offices or your co-working products or your meeting rooms. And these are the more transactional products anyway. But some of the value is to let the AI deal with these types of leads that potentially you weren't getting to in any case because you were overwhelmed with 1,000 leads, and therefore you were by default directing your sales teams to the higher value stuff. So yeah, in a sense, the value of this technology is to let the AI deal with these kind of leads.
Right.
And the other side of it, you equally, if you can see improvements in conversion rates on the higher value stuff as well. So like Francesco was saying, if you phase it, the temptation pretty quickly is to let it deal with everything because it's better. It responds faster, more accurately. Yes, it will make the odd mistake once a month, but that's it makes far fewer mistakes than humans in this context, and most importantly is responding immediately. So rather than responding in 3 hours or 3 months to a lead, you're responding in seconds, and that makes a big impact on conversion rates. The other thing just that Francesco mentioned, which I think is interesting and worth highlighting, is just the value you get from these AI agents in a void is really low. There are lots and lots of, it's quite easy to build an AI agent. It's getting easier and easier. And anyone with a bit of programming experience can do it. But the real value you get from using these systems is doing it in a way that's integrated fully with your tech stack. And that's what we've been kind of focusing on and getting into the nitty gritty of these workflows, which in some cases are fairly complex workflows for our sector, and integrating fully with the tech stack. Because without that, they're limited in value you're going to get out of it.
Right. And while we're on the topic of value, like with what you guys provide, what do you optimize for, or what your customers are looking to optimize for with those agents?
And I think that it tends to be a math problem at the end of the day. We're coming up on sort of a 1 year of this with our first cohort of customers. I mean, Unity's been around for a year and a half. A lot of those customers we started working with in the beginning of last year. And it's sort of like, what was I doing in conversion rate before working with you? What am I doing in conversion rate now?
Can you share some data or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, look, well, let me finish my comment and then I'll speak to the data. What am I paying you, right? Like per month. And as long as in general, like you don't want to be just making up for what they're paying in the revenue. You probably want to like 3 or 4x what they're paying you in costs in terms of like top line revenue that you're generating in order for it to be, relative to other things you could spend your money on, a good investment. I think generally speaking, like what we've seen as a sort of a threshold, like a baseline threshold that we want to see is a 10% increase in conversion rate from an inquiry to a tour. So if you're at 20, you go to 30, or 30 to 40. I mean, everyone has a different kind of starting conversion rate. And the reason for that tends to be some people are more aggressive with paid ad spend than others, and typically the ones that are more aggressive with paid ad spend have a lower conversion rate because they get more noise in the top of the funnel, whereas those are kind of doing primarily organic, like have high conversion rates. But wherever your starting point is, like I tend to, as a baseline metric, we want to see a 10% increase in conversion rate. And yeah, I mean, we've seen it. Like, I think we spoke with, some of our customers at GWA on stage. We saw 25% in one case. Look, I think that um, it really depends upon also um, a couple of things. Number one, like how good was your program, and responsiveness beforehand. Like some shops like really have done a like what the reason I started this company in this first place is because I bet it was on the brokerage side, and I saw some companies would take like 2 days to respond.
Right.
When your starting point, like there's all so much upside. But the others, they have like really good kind of inbound teams, in place today where they're responding within the first half an hour, and then the conversion rate is a little bit more incremental, and it becomes also about cost. What's your replacement cost for those people? And as Elliot said, could you repurpose them to do higher value work? But that's how we think about like the key metric.
Like in summary, it's like the conversion rates, and also what I hear is speed to respond, so that you can win this lead, right?
Yeah, I mean, speed is sort of an input though, right? The output at the end of the day is conversion.
Yeah.
And there tends to be a linear relationship between the two.
Mm. That one on something, or shall we move forward?
I think data sounds about right. We're seeing the same uplifts on conversion rates. Obviously, depends on the type of leads that you're processing, the number of people in that team. But we're seeing the same kind of 50% increases in conversion rate. So if you're at low 20s, you can get to the 30s plus. So it's quite dramatic, and it's quite quick as well. These aren't, we've covered it a little bit. These aren't agents that take ages to train. They're immediate, and yes, you need to, they improve over time, but these kind of improvements in conversion rates you should be able to get fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's good to know, and actually a signal how everyone can get use of it. We've been talking about the sales use case. Now I'd like us to move to something more on another big topic, which is about the smart tech and IoT. And it's a quick question around if you see AI and IoT work together in co-working, like as of today, or it's something more into the future.
I don't see it working, but maybe we can we can ask Elliot to put his operator head on. And share.
That's a question, Michal.
Whether you see that AI and IoT gonna work together in co-working to help, make decisions, maybe provide better member experience or something like that. Like, do you see use cases as of today about those two?
Definitely, although I think we haven't made massive amounts of progress, even on the IoT side as a sector. We're starting to make progress now, and operators I'm speaking to are finally making decent progress on this. But generally, again, we're late to the party. IoT, what I'm already talking about, we're talking about sensors and data collection around our spaces, and so you combine that with AI. If AI can bring the brains to make the most sense out of that data, it sounds like a powerful combination. And the result should be workspaces that are more dynamic and more responsive as a result. Just thinking about the way that operators until now, in some cases, think about occupancy is the space full or is a contract signed? Rather than like how we should be thinking about it. It's like why, how is the space full? Which areas are being used? Can AI or can IoT and AI show why certain areas are underused? The right, peak usage times of particular products, and or can they recommend changes in pricing as a result of different usage? And potentially the short-term answer to that will be like AI helping operators make decisions based on usage. I can see the potential for AI to tell you when particular zones are quiet. I mean, we know when they're quiet anyway, but more, they're quiet on Monday to Friday. But within that, which zones are being used, and should a particular area be used for something else? Should or whatever. Maybe a phone booth. Phone booths are full. Therefore, you need more phone booths. But just getting better data on that, the way that operators are thinking about appraising spaces, even now, is fairly rudimental. And there's a big opportunity to improve that. And then you kind of think really futuristic, or maybe not that futuristic, but it feels really futuristic, but given where we are, things like emotion detection AI. Can AI figure out via cameras or voice how members are feeling in the space? Is energy particularly low? Is energy particularly low in in an area of the space at the end of the day? So you need to turn the lights up or turn the music up.
Yeah.
That's what I think we're talking about, and there's lots of potential.
Yeah, as of today, this sounds like futuristic today. I know the technology is there, but like I'm asking myself, like if they're not happy today, is it because of the space? Is it because of lost deal, or is it because of the traffic? But yeah, that's very interesting. Francesco, what do you think?
I think transparently, I'm kind of in the deep end on this one. I think my spider senses are that um, the incremental gains from AI investments in these areas are pretty marginal when it in the scheme of running an operation, and so platforms are going to be sort of lagging and kind of offering these tools, and operators are probably going to be sluggish in terms of using them. Um, I think, at its core, the capabilities exist. I think the technology, like kind of I said earlier, I think it's not a technology problem. It's just a capacity and ROI one. And is there an application that'll kind of bring it to life is in part dependent upon how loud our operator's asking for it.
Hmm. Okay. You don't want to add something on top?
Yeah, I also think it's an ROI problem.
Hmm.
Technology is there, and there's so many exciting use cases that can be achieved. Elliot mentioned a few that are actually pretty cool, but it's still questionable whether the investment will be worth it. You have to be in a very specific situation where that can, make a financial benefit. Although, I mean, with the camera thing and security, I think there are huge opportunities for operational improvements there with AI. General, because security is important and it's costly. So if AI can actually improve the efficiency there, that's interesting. But overall, with IoT, that's always been the case in coworking. Usually, sensors are expensive or not good enough, and it's kind of tricky to actually use it and see really good ROI.
Right.
So
There's a huge diversity in the offerings of IoT sensors as well. But now, if we have to switch from the sensors to something more that we deal with every day, let's talk about AI and the member experience. You guys mentioned that this is one of the areas where people are also like looking forward, but like how is AI making the member journey smoother or more personalized? You guys talked about onboarding, stuff like that, but where do you see it is making member experience journey smoother or will be making it? Who speaks first? First.
Look, I think so to be clear, we're not really currently doing much work outside of the sales use case. But where I look for inspiration here are other industries that are a little bit more advanced in this adoption. I think one of them is multifamily, like build to rent, basically big apartment buildings. Um, and there's some sort of very large category leaders doing similar work on the AI side, helping with kind of lead nurture, qualification, scheduling. And if you just kind of look at where they are, a lot of the kind of second, so there a lot of them kind of went beyond this first stage of development, which was focused on what they called lead to lease, right? Which we would call like maybe like inquiry to tour. They call it lead to lease. Now, the second kind of phase of development for a lot of the agent work now is around maintenance and support. And so the idea is that, you know, if you're living in one of these apartment buildings, like you can text an agent just, you know, on WhatsApp or on SMS, and you could say, hey, you know, my the lights in the hallway are flickering, and you know, we'll have a quick chat with you. I'll ask you to take a picture. It will, confirm that you want to log the request. Once you've confirmed you want to log it, we'll submit a work order. You know, and the next thing you know, there's like somebody the next day kind of fixing the light in the hallway, right? And this is a agentic kind of enabled experience through a channel that is like, you know, text message, right, or WhatsApp that is just kind of used by everybody, right? And so I think eventually we'll see this across all relevant categories, right? And so co-working is definitely not immune to that. So I think here I'm sitting in a bond collective. It's a co-working space in New York that we work out of, and you know, I was sitting with someone earlier, and I had to kind of like figure out like relearn how to like add them to the guest registration to get them to kind of be able to come up to the meeting room without any friction downstairs. I then had to ask what the Wi-Fi password is because I forgot what the guest was. Those are just like two things in one day in the span of 2 hours that theoretically like an AI agent should be able to help you with if you could just text it, right? So I think this is sort of the direction of travel that we'll hopefully see in this industry, is that more and more kind of quotidian, day-to-day tasks that, it's the 80-20 rule, right? Like 80% should be done by an agent, and then that 20% will let the community manager spend more of their time kind of walking up and down the hallway, talking to members, understanding when they need more space, like building relationships. And so, I think as Elliot said it, this is really about like helping your people multiply really like their impact and their surface area of impact. So yeah, those are just some thoughts, and I think multifamily is a good industry for us to watch.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like with having an agent in our pocket to ask for everything, we're gonna get lazy remembering stuff, like the Wi-Fi password, for example. And Elliot, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, at risk of repeating some of that, and what I said before, AI, in my view, should be used in our sector at least to support customer service rather than replacing customer service. And it's so important given how core human connection is to what we're delivering. So when I think about customer service and AI, I'm thinking about everything around the member interaction, so the handling of all the background tasks that distract your team from being present and being personal. And some people think this is quite a simple operational model. Actually, there's a ton of stuff that these membership teams are doing behind the scenes. And the more successful operators that I've seen are taking the admin out of these roles and making these roles as simple as possible, right? Because often these people, these team members have like 20 systems and pieces of software that they're managing, and they're doing like everything from finance to sales to dealing with members. They're doing everything apart from sometimes the stuff you really want them to be doing. So I see the value of AI in freeing up their time and making their roles really simple so that they can focus on delivering what they're meant to be doing, which is providing a great member experience and building really meaningful relationships.
Right. Yeah, I do agree. We should be focused. Like this is in the core of it, right? You're right.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat Francesco said, but plenty of opportunities on that front. Certainly, I love the 80-20 rule. AI can certainly replace 80% of the very repetitive, boring um, things that are happening there, and people are doing, and leave only the 20% that are really require human work or interaction. So I'm very much excited actually for this particular one. I think we're nowhere near where the industry can be, but hopefully we'll get there. I think there is also a little bit back to the volume thing and how big of a problem is to justify the whole investment and work and all that. And certainly, yeah, we'll get there, but it's not. I still believe the sales is the bigger and more interesting part of the member experience at this point, because after that, especially for long-term members, I mean, you don't have to. Francesco, that actually was a good example. With that happens when you have guests and people for first time and whatnot. But if you're, in your daily routine and in your co-working space, you don't have much to deal with and interact with. But for meeting room users, for event users, for guests, and people who are coming for a day pass that don't know much about the space or infrastructure, you have a million questions and many times not much answers. and it's always, yeah, it's going to be helpful to have someone actually answering this. Hey David, yeah, that is a funny comment that Bond should use the visitor hub. They should. It's so much better. But yeah. Anyway, it's definitely an area that I personally hope to see a lot more action and development in the future, also from our side.
Right. Yeah, me too. I'm very excited around the member experience and how we can make it even better. And now we had great discussions around sales, member experience, IoT, the whole AI experience. Now I'd like us to look into the future, guys. So what's the future of co-working management or the co-working tech and how it's gonna look like in 2 to 5 years with the AI at its core? Think about it. Who wants to start first? Like this is more on the visionary side. Let's get visionary. And yeah,
MK, I think we need to do like 30 seconds. Everyone,
let's
breathe.
Let's do 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go first, and I'll try and keep it to 30 seconds. I can see in 3 to 5 years a really big divide between operators who are engaging now with AI properly and those who don't. And I mean that in a commercial sense. Obviously, I think profit gap is going to widen between operators who are using AI properly and those who don't. Yeah, operators who are engaging with this technology will have smaller central teams, therefore lower OPEX, lower central OPEX. They'll have better decision making and just generally higher performing spaces and member experience. So I can see this, and everyone else, by comparison, will probably look slow and expensive and bloated. So I think 5 years, you'll see the variance between these groups. And the best operators in a sector that's still maturing in lots of ways will kind of rise to the top and be generating very different margins. And you can see this in other sectors, by the way.
Yeah, right. Okay. And that was 30 seconds. Francesco, you?
Yeah, I think I suspect we'll see. If I had to sort of be ambitious, there's going to be like one operator. I don't know who it'll be, where they'll come from, if they exist today or they're new, who's just going to like put everybody else to shame and how they figure out how to deploy AI to just sustainably grow and create kind of like I don't want to say a WeWork level growth trajectory, but a trajectory that is only possible due to an operational efficiency that is unlocked by a highly agentic workflow. And so I think I agree with everything Elliot said, and I think hopefully we'll see at least one or two just really, really inspiring examples of like what the future looks like start to emerge in the next couple of years.
It's
So
time to start a co-working business, some might say.
Yeah.
say that again.
It's a great time to set up a co-working business today, some might say. Which is,
Yeah.
I mean, in many ways, a terrible time to set up one. But in this particular case, it's probably to your advantage. Build everything right from the beginning.
It is.
Yeah.
Miro, your 30 seconds.
Just briefly, Francesco, I think you still have the constraints of the physical world. So fitting out these spaces still takes time forever, like
Right.
physical challenges. But anyway, what will coworking tech look like in 2 to 5 years? By the way, at Offside, we started 10 years ago, literally with the idea that we do want to automate everything in the coworking happening in a co-working space, and it's so freaking hard. It's just incredibly hard to connect all these systems and make them work together and automate all these processes with the tools that we had before. And it's honestly 10 times, 100 times, I don't know, a million times easier with AI. So in the 2 to 5 years, I do believe that co-working tech will be able to absolutely fully automate the co-working operations outside of the places where we need real human interaction. So everything else will be fully automated. Your sales Unity or Orchestrate agent will talk to your pricing agent for figuring out the best price for this customer, and that use case will talk to your finance agent and your whatever agent, and then your integrations agent will connect the access control or printing or whatever. So basically, everyone will talk to each other and achieve best business outcome based on your preferences, how you configured everything. And I do agree that people who are messing up with AI now, although you may not see like the incredible results you may expect or hope for, are gonna be the winners in the future, because you will know what's the technology capable of, and the technology is gonna be 10 times more capable in just 1 year, 2 years, whatever, X years. Just the rate of innovation there, it's phenomenal. So yeah, expect a lot.
Sounds like having a big team of agents to me.
Big team of agents. Yeah.
All right. As we are on the top of the hour and in the spirit of this 30 seconds rounds, I'd like us to close this thing up with a lightning round. Just one sentence per question, please. So we're gonna start with what's the most overhyped AI trend in co-working? And we're gonna start with Francesco.
Outbound sales.
All right, Elliot?
Generic chatbots. Generic chatbots that haven't really focused in on these workflows and an understanding of how to integrate this software stack.
All right, Miro, and you?
Us. I don't think anything is overhyped.
All right. Then what's the most under hyped or overlooked innovation?
Right. I mean, not surprising, I'd say automated sales follow-up and lead management, particularly in the broker channel. You know, this is not sexy stuff, but it's delivering some of the best ROI right now and driving real revenue.
Francesco?
I'm excited about using voice AI to answer calls on the weekends.
Oh, and Miro, you?
Yeah, I think it's again sales. I think everyone should be using these PR agents, guys. So yeah.
All right. And looking even further into the future, co-working in one word by 2030. Francesco?
Co-working.
Elliot?
Adaptive.
Right, and Miro?
Hospitable.
Hospitable.
I don't know.
All right. One thing every operator should do this year with AI, and this is the last question. This will help everyone who joined today. Elliot, want to start? Or yeah.
I just encourage everyone to download ChatGPT's desktop app and just use it at least once a day. Just start using it.
Okay.
Just engage with it and try things. Like there's so much nervousness out there, you know, and I'm seeing lots of operators who we speak to are in the middle of these like 1 year long AI reviews using all kinds of external consultants to come in and tell you how AI can be applied to your business, which in my experience just isn't the right way to approach this. You know, you'll learn more in 2 weeks with a tool like Orchestra than in 2 months of getting consultants in and telling you about your business process.
All right. And Miro?
I think everything. No, literally try to do everything with AI. At least try. You may not succeed, but try. Literally everything. Create this LinkedIn post, create this picture, this whatever, this campaign, everything. Try first with the AI, see what happens. So awesome.
And mine will be start small, just start. Don't miss it out. Guys, this was great. Thank you very much for all the insights and the great discussion. I think it was very insightful for everyone who joined. And now maybe, Miro, I can turn to you to see if there are questions that we can answer and close this session.
There are a couple of questions, but I think let me just have a look. I think, yeah, there are a few. I'll pick two, and I'll let everyone go. So, is there likely to be a spike in demand as businesses shift to 1 or 2 people using multiple AI agents? They can move to co-working space to reduce overhead. I think that's broader, macro kind of environment question. I personally believe so. Yes, I mean, apparently, the AI native companies are smaller, and they certainly will use co-working in general. So, yeah. Can you utilize the AI to re-engage old leads and keep them in rotation? Guys, that's for you.
Yeah, sure, why not? That's at the end of the day, it's just another kind of profile of a lead, but you can deploy an AI agent against an existing customer, a new customer, a prospective customer. I typically don't see it as the first kind of primary use case. But once you have an AI agent sort of effectively working your inbound, there's a lot of kind of follow-on use cases. This is top of the list.
Yeah, you can, and it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, to have a pile of lost leads so you never go back to doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the biggest opportunities, and where most sales teams won't do a great job is to re-engage with old leads. So certainly the AI can be very helpful, in my opinion, on that front. Alrighty, thank you so much, guys. Honestly appreciate everything and dialing in. I'll let you go, and wishing you all the best. More AI, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks, Mira. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.